Well, on the whole, it's performed rather well. There are, of course, the political measures being passed over the years about which people have different views, so I won't say anything about that. But on technical law reform, the bread and butter stuff, which is so important, they've done a great deal, and much of that would never have happened without devolution. So I think the bread and butter material of Scots law has benefited very considerably for the 18 years or so the Scottish Parliament has been in existence. But nevertheless, there's room for improvement, as they say in school reports. There are a number of recommendations from the Scottish Law Commission which are not particularly controversial in my opinion, that the Scottish Parliament has not taken on board, I think for no very good reason. Sometimes politicians say there's a shortage of parliamentary time, but in this year, 2017, the Scottish Parliament only passed 5 statutes. So I don't believe that story, there's no parliamentary time. I think politicians need to be more interested in ordinary, boring law reform, which, though boring is terribly important, they tend to be more interested in dramatic gestures than the maintenance of a functioning legal system. Well, I think many of the complaints about that were really not actually aimed at the Act itself. What happened is that when the Act came into force late in 2014, a number of changes were made by Register Scotland, some of them good, some of them not so good, which were not actually connected with the legislation itself. They took the opportunity to make those changes at that time. And I think on the whole, I would say most of the complaints I've heard are really about those changes which were not changes made by the legislation itself. An enormous amount. I always say that theory without practice is empty and practice without theory is blind. I think that law works best when there's a unity between theory and practice, when the practitioners can think with a certain amount of theory and when the theoreticians, who are the academics on the whole, are conscious of practical issues. So I think I certainly have benefited enormously from contact with practice myself, and I think the two should work together. Well, on the whole, I do. Some people see threats to the autonomy of Scots law. One can't be sure of the future, but I don't see any particular reason to think that Scots law won't be existing as a separate system in 25 years' time or 50 years' time. I don't actually see any particular threats to it. So no, I don't see that is not a particular concern of mine.